Hi, I'm Marcia Kirschbaum from Hollywood News Center, here to interview recording and mixing engineer Ray Bardani. Hi, Ray. How are you?
I'm good. Nice to meet you.
You too. Well, tell me a little bit about what you're doing these days.
Well, I'm out in California right now in the middle of mixing two albums. So basically, that's what I've been doing for the last few months. But I know we're here to talk about John Krondes' record, and I know you have some questions for me. So that's what we're here for.
Yes, can we talk a little bit about the hit making machine and
The way I got involved with this was I was working at a studio in New York City called the Hit Factory, which is no longer there, but this was a couple of years ago. And John was working upstairs in one of the other rooms. And the studio manager told John I was downstairs doing something, and I was the guy that did the mixing on the Elvis 30 number one hits, and I had just finished co-producing and mixing the companion album to that, which was Second to None. And John was all excited to meet me because his project involves all the original Elvis Presley musicians through the course of his career. So he wanted to come down and meet me because he thought it would be great to get me involved in maybe wanting to mix his record that he was working on. And so he came downstairs and we met, and he said he told me what he was doing with the project, and he had all these people, the original people that have played with Elvis through his career, and he was writing original songs and doing this, and would I be interested in maybe doing some mixing for him? So I said, yeah, call me when you're ready for something like that, and yeah, let's see what we can do. So basically, I didn't hear from John for a couple of months later. He called and said, I'm John, the guy that you met. And I said, hey, John, how are you? He said, I'm ready to mix a couple of songs. Would you want to try them? I said, sure. And we worked out the schedule. And then we did our first couple of mixes for the record that you're talking about now.
who are some of the more notable artists that you have been working with?
Well, I have a 30-year career, so it's a pretty wide range of people. I've worked with anyone from, I give this range of between Miles Davis through Donny Osmond. So with a lot of people in between. I've worked with Luther Vandross, David Sanborn, Dr. John, and a variety of musicians within the realm of recording and mixing through the years. So that's just some of the people I've worked with. And, but I've worked through a lot more, but it's hard to think of after 30 years of doing this.
You've done a lot of work with composers that worked directly with Elvis Presley through the years. What was it like to work with those people? Did you get any great stories out of that?
Well, for me, the interesting thing was I had just finished working on the original Elvis Presley tapes, which were from the late 50s through the time of his death in the 70s. And I thought what I thought was very interesting with John's project was because he had so many of the same musicians, I was mixing stuff they had done, 40 years ago, 45 years ago. And I was listening to the music, and their musicianship was incredible still. And it was, very funny to be working on something when they were very, very young, and now 40-something years later, I'm mixing the same musicians on new compositions that John had written or co-written with people that had written for Elvis. So I found it extremely interesting, and could not believe that even that much time later, they sounded exactly the same. So it was really a treat to be able to work with them in the present as well as from their past work. So I think that's why John knew I would be sensitive to the music, because I had done so much mixing of their original performances with Elvis that he knew I would know what to do, how to treat them in his music. So that was really interesting to me. That much time later has passed and I'm working with the same musicians later.
Yes. Ray, all the time that you've spent with John Krondes, How has that affected the passion for you in this industry?
Well, what I loved about John was, first of all, I couldn't believe he pulled this off. He managed to get all these people, varying ages and times. This project has been going on for a couple of years, and it took him a while to put it together. And so every few months, he'd have something completed, and we would mix it. And then months would go by, and he'd be doing more stuff, whether it be in Nashville or L.A. or New York or whatever. And then call me up and say, "Hey, how you doing? Good. I got more." Okay, so we do it. But the thing that I liked about John, and the reason I wanted to help out and be involved, was he was so passionate about the music that he wrote, and the fact that he did whatever he had to do to get the musicians and pick the right people for the right songs, I thought was really charming in a way that he cared so much about it. So for me, it made me want to be involved because I saw his passion, and I know he loves the music, and I think that it's really, really important to him to bring these musicians and this whole project together. And it's taken a few years to put it together, but he managed to pull it off. And I think the people that are fans of this kind of music will enjoy hearing these musicians again in a new context in today's record world, whatever that may be. So I think it was really John's true love of this that made me want to do this for him, because it was very sporadic and, you know, over a long period of time. And when I listened back to it all put together recently, it was hard. I didn't even remember doing some of the songs because they were long ago. And then I realized how it all held together, even though it took a long period of time. But I think the completion of the project is hopefully going to bring out John's vision, and the people that will hear this music will totally enjoy it.
Awesome. Yeah, it's very obvious that his passion has grown into your passion
Yeah, I
also.
mean, I thought it was just, it's amazing to see someone that really, really did whatever they had to do for their vision. And I always admire that, because even when I'm recording or mixing or even when I'm producing, I go that extra mile to make it as good as I can. Whether I like the music or not, I always do it 110%. I feel I owe that to the person that puts their music in my hands. So I do like the music, but I'm just saying, regardless of what the project is. So when I saw that in him, and he's funny too sometimes, so it was a lot of fun on the sessions. But yeah, I said, yeah, I'll work with you in whatever capacity you want, and I know we got along really well, and it was an experience I've enjoyed doing.
That's great. How long did it take for you to get through this from beginning to end?
Well, I would say probably met John maybe 4 years ago, actually. So it's been at least 4 years over in and out, a little bit here, a little bit there over that period. That's why it was so interesting. But it took him that time to be able to put things together, organize schedules, and get done whatever he had to get done. So, yeah, so that's about as long as I've known John. And I know I think he had started the project prior to meeting me. So he had been working on it before that. So it's been a passion for him. So.
Any future plans for the two of you?
If John wants to work together again, which I'm sure he will call me, I would love to work with him again, because it was really an enjoyable experience, and I think he pulled off something which I think a lot of people will be surprised, and I think all the Elvis fans will love to hear these musicians again in this context.